Hey, this is Jason Creel and you're watching Lawn Care Life. Today I'm going to talk to you about crabgrass. We're going to look at some crabgrass and then I'm going to show you at least 4 different products and talk to you about each of the products and when you would use each product to control crabgrass depending on the time of the year and what stage of the life the crabgrass is in. So let's first look at crabgrass, show you what it looks like, and then we'll talk about the products and how to control crabgrass in your lawn. Now I get calls from time to time where people say I've got crabgrass in my lawn, and a lot of people just, no matter what grassy weed it is, they call it crabgrass. Well, that's not true. There's different grassy weeds, but let's look at what actual crabgrass looks like. And I'll say this, there's more than one variety of crabgrass, but I'm going to show you what crabgrass looks like in this particular lawn. Okay, so here, this is a lot of crabgrass. You see here, this is what I would call, you know, sort of juvenile stage crabgrass. It's not full-fledged maturity, but it's not baby crabgrass either. Here's some Bermuda grass, the crabgrass, and you got some Poa annua here that's putting out a seed head. And the time of this video is late April. But you can see this crabgrass, I mean, it just gets really nice and thick, and over the next month or two, if nothing was done to this particular lawn, this crabgrass would really just take over the entire lawn. In my opinion, crabgrass has a little slightly lighter color green to it than some of the other grassy weeds that I deal with. And you see here, this weed here, it has a duller color to it. This is Dallas grass. A lot of times when I get calls from people and they say, I've got crabgrass on my lawn, it'll be March. It's usually Dallas grass. And I'll tell them, you know, if you've got crabgrass at this time of year, it's so little you probably can't even see it. Now I deal with a lot of Bermuda lawns and we just get crabgrass big time in our Bermuda grass lawns. Other types of grasses may be able to choke out the crabgrass a little better, but if you have a Bermuda lawn and you don't apply a pre-emergent, chances are you're gonna have some crabgrass. And if that continues over time, eventually the crabgrass can almost take over the entire lawn. Now let's take a look at the products. We'll talk to you about 4 different products and when to use each product, because you might want to use one product over another depending on the time of year you're trying to get rid of your crabgrass. So here's the 4 products I'm going to talk to you about today, and they're in the order that I'm going to deal with them, starting over here with Resolute, which is generic prodiamine. You see the active ingredients, prodiamine. I've talked about these on here before. Then we're going to talk about Dimension. We're going to talk about Drvie XLR8, and then we're going to talk about Solitaire. So let me tell you my approach on a Bermuda lawn, and this can somewhat go with other grass types as well. And you want to check the label always on these products and make sure that you can use these on your particular grass type. But let's just start at the beginning of the year. If we went through the calendar year and what I do with crabgrass. So January, February. Now I'm in Alabama and I'm basing this off of how it works here. Now I understand this, crabgrass germinates based on the soil temperature. So if we get warmer in your area quicker, if you're further south, then your crabgrass is going to germinate earlier. If you live further north and it stays cooler, then the crabgrass is going to germinate later. So I'm going to tell you kind of the calendar, how it would work for where I'm at in Alabama, but you may have a slightly different calendar on how it's going to work for you, but the principles are the same as far as when you would apply these specific products. So for instance, we start spraying a pre-emergent in January, early January. So let's just say January the 2nd after New Year's Day, out there and applying a pre and post-emergent combination. We're using this product, Resolute with prodiamine. Now this is a great product for preventing crabgrass if you can put this out before the crabgrass germinates. Now, I had a customer recently write me a letter saying, why did you come spray my yard when it was still brown, meaning dormant? And they were talking about a late January, early February application and wondering why in the world would I be out there doing something at that time of year to their lawn. What the customer doesn't understand is that is a very good time for me to be out there preventing your crabgrass and your future weeds that you're going to have coming up germinating sometime in March, usually in my area, depending on how the weather, if we have a warm spring, cool spring, whatever. Last year I think the crabgrass was germinating in February because it got warmer earlier. This year was more like March here because it stayed cooler later. But anyway, this is a relatively inexpensive product that I start spraying in January all the way through February. until I think that the crabgrass has begun to germinate. Now you can base that off of air temperatures. You know, when the air temperatures get up in the 70s and the soil temperatures get into when the air temperatures get into the 70s consistently for a few days, and your soil temperatures begin to get into the 50s, and you can see certain plants start to bloom, then you know the crabgrass is about to germinate. So you want to use this before the crabgrass germinates, not after, because it does not work as a post-emergent for crabgrass. It's only a pre-emergent. Now, let's say that I've been using this January, February, and I get a new customer that calls me in middle of March, and I've never treated their lawn before. They've not applied any pre-emergent. Then what am I going to do at that point? Well, at that point, I'm thinking the crabgrass may have already germinated. So I'm going to need to switch over and start using this product, Dimension. Now, these products come in granular form if you prefer that. But Dimension has both pre and post-emergent activity on crabgrass, meaning that it will prevent crabgrass if it hasn't germinated yet, or if it's already germinate and you have some baby crabgrass, then Dimension can kill that as well. So if you have a new customer that signs up in March, I'm basing this on a typical year here in Alabama, adjust it according to your area and according to the temperatures and things like that. In March, I'm gonna switch over and start using Dimension on a new customer who haven't sprayed. Now, if I've already sprayed their yard in January and I want to come back with another round in March or April, well, then I'm just going to use Resolute again. Much cheaper, and it's very effective, and there's no reason to switch over, in my opinion, to switch over and start using Dimension to try to prevent crabgrass, because Dimension, this jug is over $500, I believe, you know, and you can buy it in smaller quantities and things like that, but you know, the point is it's expensive. So, you know, this is what I'm going to use when the crabgrass is already germinated but still at a very baby form. So again, for me, maybe early March through early April, something like that. Now, in my opinion, once the crabgrass reaches the size that it was in the video that I had showed you earlier, that crabgrass, then I'm probably not going to use Dimension anymore. I think it will cause some damage to the crabgrass, but I think the crabgrass has gotten a little bit too big. So I'm going to switch over and use a post-emergent for crabgrass at that point. So this is my strategy I'm switching to this year. Let's say I get a new customer and they sign up with me in late April or maybe all the way through May. Okay, so we're going on the calendar here. January, February, again, by my time zone where I'm at, normal temperature year, I'm using prodiamine. Very effective, very reasonably priced. Once the crabgrass germinates, I think, well, I need to go to Dimension, because if it's already germinated, I need to use Dimension. So that's for me, you know, sometime in March, I'm gonna switch over to Dimension all the way through, you know, maybe mid-April, depending on the temperatures and things like that, the situation. And then I'm gonna switch over and start doing this. Now, this is something I'm just trying this year for the first time, but I'm gonna actually use Drvie XLR8, which, if you look at the active ingredient, it's quinclorac is what's in there. And quinclorac is the post-emergent for crabgrass. So I'm thinking I'm gonna go to Drvie, which has the quinclorac in it, and I might put some of the prodiamine in there, not to prevent the crabgrass, but hopefully to prevent some of the other summer weeds like spurge and stuff like that that may still be germinating. So hopefully the Drvie will do its work as a post-emergent and knock out the existing crabgrass that's still not at a mature level, maybe the level that I showed you in the video earlier. So do that, you know, mid-April all the way through May. And then let's say you get a new customer that calls you in June. And the good thing about the lawn business, or if you're doing your own yard, whatever, but in lawn business, most customers are gonna call you. You know, I get a lot of customers February, March, April, and some in May, but once June gets, I don't get that many customers. And by June, if I got a customer and they've got a solid yard full of crabgrass, I'm either gonna talk to them and say, hey, listen, this crabgrass is gonna die when it gets cold, and we'll prevent it next year with Resolute. But if you want us to try to get rid of it right now, and it's already reached a more mature stage by June, then I might try Solitaire, which also has quinclorac in it as well as sulfentrazone, and is kind of my go-to post-emergent for crabgrass. But now mostly what I'm using this for is just spot treating some grassy weeds like crabgrass or foxtail or stuff like that in the summer. that's come up. If I get that new customer in June, I'm not going to make any promises to them about getting rid of all their crabgrass. I'm going to really try to communicate that, hey, next year we're going to be able to easily prevent your crabgrass with Resolute, but for now we may can try the Solitaire to get rid of. But this is another expensive product, so you don't want to go through there and just spray some 20,000 square foot lawn with Solitaire. You might just talk to them about, hey, the crabgrass is going to die when we get into the fall and the cooler temperatures, and we'll prevent it next year. So, anytime I get a new customer in July, August, September, by that point, you just say, listen, we're just gonna have to live with the crabgrass this year, we'll prevent it next year. And then when October, when you get that first cool snap, maybe that first frost in October, November, then your crabgrass dies. November, December, there's no crabgrass, it's died, the cool weather's killed it. And in January, you're back to spraying again with Resolute, which again prevents almost all crabgrass at a very reasonable cost. So quickly reviewing again, January, February, this is what I want to use before the crabgrass germinates. Once it germinates, but it's still very baby form, I switch over, start using Dimension. Once it's gotten too big to where I think the Dimension won't control it anymore, I might go with a straight post-emergent like Drive. I might mix some Resolute in there with it to help prevent some other summer weeds like spurge and things like that. And if I just want to go with what I consider one of my better crabgrass post-emergent products, my go-to product mostly for spot treating, and that's Solitaire, is something else you use. There's other products that have quinclorac in it. Q4 is one that people use, and you can get generic quincloracs, things like that. I'm gonna put some links to these products in the description below if you want to check them out. They come in different sizes. Some of them come granular form, things like that. So there's different ways that you can put these out. But timing is very important with crabgrass and other weeds as well. We want to try to get a pre-emergent out before it germinates. That is by far, in my opinion and my experience, the easiest and best way to control crabgrass in your lawn. Hope the video has been helpful. Hope you learned something about my crabgrass strategy. Let me hear from you. If you have a strategy on crabgrass, or what do you think about my strategy? Do you have any questions? Leave a comment below, hit that like button, and subscribe to the channel, and check out the other videos on the channel by clicking Lawn Care Life below, and you can see over 500 videos. Thanks for watching. Talk to you later. Bye.